Hello and welcome along to our second Fireball XL5 60th anniversary comic anthology live stream. Now we've already announced it last week, but I'm back here with Lee Sullivan, who's going to be joining me shortly. I being Jamie Anderson, hello, son of the late great Jerry Anderson. And Lee and I would like to reveal a little bit more about the 60th anniversary anthology and also tell you about a couple of other things that are coming up for Fireball's 60th on the 28th of October. So without further ado, please welcome along comic artist, legend, and lovely all-round chap, Lee Sullivan. Here he is.
Thank you. Hello, viewers.
We had a lovely time last week when we did a previous live stream. We've had lots and lots of people commenting and giving us all sorts of questions and lots of excited people about this comic anthology, which I notice you've got very carefully propped up behind you.
Yes, you mean the baby here. Yes, yeah. Since we last talked, I've received my copy and I couldn't be happier. It's a wonderful thing.
It is a beautiful book. So for those of you who were not with us last time, Fireball's 60th anniversary is on the 28th of October. I think it was first broadcast 4:25 p.m. I've discovered since, although it depends on the region where you were. But we're doing a couple of things for the 60th anniversary. I'm going to just go slightly off-piste for a moment because many of you may have seen one of the things we're doing is releasing this beauty. It's a brand new, old style, authentic style mini album. Limited edition vinyl on flame vinyl, very appropriate for Fireball. It's Cloud of a Billion Lights. Now, obviously, the cast, we had to do some serious recasting. So we've got Mark Silk, Genevieve Gaunt, Nick Briggs, and I'm afraid to say me. Very presumptuous of me to be that. I'm not an actor. However, as many of you will know, Dad did the voice for Robert the Robot originally, and so we thought it only right, possibly not appropriate or the best casting choice, but only right that the torch be kind of handed on to me. So I've been here with my trusty artificial larynx doing my very best on our way home, doing my best to replicate Robert the Robot voice. So
still my beating heart.
It's very fun to do. I can see why you enjoyed doing that.
Yeah.
But it's a classic style, 21 minutes of adventure, and you can get hold of that from the Jerry Anderson store, and it will be shipping before the 60th anniversary, so you can get it and play it. But it's 1,000 units worldwide, authentic kind of retro packaging. But that's just one of the things we're doing. The other thing that we're here to talk about really today is this fantastic 60th anniversary anthology of all the TV21 strips, including the TV21 specials and the ones from Countdown, I think. Yes. So here's the cover, if you can't already see it in Lee's background. Now, Lee is here not only as an ambassador for all Fireball XL5 fans, because it was one of his earliest passions and remains a passion now, but also because he's contributing to it. So again, just to kind of take us back to the 1960s, because this TV21 didn't come out until 3 years after the initial broadcast of Fireball. So kind of, there was maybe a bit of a gap. So did you get a sense of it coming back into your life, or were you just perpetually watching repeats and any possible broadcast at the time?
Well, it was certainly watching repeats is the if they were on, but of course it's difficult when you're a child. The episodes come and go, and you don't necessarily remember specific episodes, and that they could really carry on playing them forever, and you might not notice till about the third time round. That certainly happened with Star Trek later on. But also the gap was slightly filled by a TV comic. They had a much more sort of junior version of Fireball XL5 drawn by Neville Main, who was the first Doctor Who comic strip artist. But they seem, I suppose I was so young when I was reading those that really they seemed fine. But there was a huge jump when it went from TV comic to TV21. The artwork was suddenly much more grown up, and the scripts were also very grown up. and the artwork got better and better because eventually Mike Noble took it over, who's I think the definitive Fireball XL5 artist, it expanded the whole Fireball thing so much, and it made it real. I mean, you have to consider that what age you start watching these shows. I was lucky, and I was maybe 3 or 4 when I saw Supercar. Fireball came on, I was 4 or 5, something like that, and so they progress. But by the time TV21 came out, I was a very sophisticated 7 or 8-year-old by then, and so the strips matched my particular understanding of what that thing should be much better than if it had been grounded back with the Neville main stories. I wouldn't have read them because I would have considered myself far beyond that. I've been regressing ever since, right back to the 1960s. In fact, I mostly live there these days. But I think that the quality of it was so wonderful, and it easily matched the Eagle, which was the big comic preceding TV21 with Dan Dare. But TV21 came along and sort of blew the whole thing out of the water because it was so sophisticated, had such good artists, and things like they didn't do. I was always slightly miffed that they didn't really do a serious supercar, but I guess they went for the sort of comedy aspect of it. And also, it's never been quite in the same universe. Even the Anderson universe as created by TV21, it doesn't quite exist in the same timeline, certainly. So, although I have tried to address that recently.
You have, yes. Your passion spills over beyond Fireball XL5 forwards and backwards in time. We'll touch on that very shortly. But, I mean, I have a copy of the book, as you do.
Oh, yes.
We'll just say very quickly, a massive thank you to the team who've put this together. Shaki, Stephen, Michael, and Marcus for the fantastic design work on all of our lovely logos and bits and pieces. And of course, Lee, because you've done some bits and pieces in there too, it is a massive, it's a whopper. It's vast.
It's a huge thing.
Yeah, so it's 336 pages, all the strips, and it's a weighty
smell as well. You're not just buying a book; it's got a.
Lee's got a history relaying his sense memories of toys and various other things. Anyway, so to the team, fantastic job doing it. It's a really lovely representation of all those strips and all the amazing artists within them. But one of those artists, Lee Sullivan, that is in those pages is not an original TV21 artist, is he? No, he's an interloper, a Johnny-come-lately, someone peering over the shoulder of giants, trying to match, well, not match, trying to keep my head above the water while swimming with these guys. I have contributed a 17-page strip, which is it's an exercise in trying to pull things together, I love the way you're tiptoeing around this.
Well, yes, I'm being delicate.
Well, we can give some illustrative examples because, as we've mentioned, TV21 tried to do what Marvel and DC and so many are doing a lot now and bring together different IPs. So in the very early days, we had pages of Lady Penelope and Stingray, such as here, where there are mentions of Fireball, Steve Zodiac, elements crossover. They were doing this before. So you and I thought it would be a good idea to expand on that and to bring these organizations, bring these IPs, that's the corporate term, isn't it? Bring these brands together.
Intellectual puppets, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. into something which links back into those classic Fireball XL5 strips, but tells a new aspect. Now, we showed a little sneak peek panel here last time of one example of how Fireball and Thunderbirds are brought together.
Literally.
Brought together, absolutely, literally here. We're not going to tell you how or why, but we thought you might appreciate some other bits and pieces, because the news broke earlier in the week, the sort of press release stuff for the broader media about this, and there was a very specific mention about the nature of this crossover. So let's show a couple of panels. You can maybe give some hints. Now, don't worry, you'll see a few sections that have been redacted and blurred and whited out. Obviously, those are not the same as what's in the print, but we're trying to preserve the secrecy around the story, so it's really exciting when you eventually get your copy. So here's an example of some crossover stuff going on.
Oh dear!
What's this?
Well, I mean, quite clearly, it's the end of Fireball, and well, I mean, obviously, you know, it's, one comes to these things with love, and then one destroys everything.
Absolutely, that's very much in an Anderson vein, you know, model makers creating beautiful things and then completely destroying them. So yes, unfortunately, the result of this attack has been redacted by order of the World Space Patrol, which is very unfortunate for you, dear viewer, because you can't see what happens next. But clearly, Captain Black's presence in the world of Fireball is something rather exciting. I think the only other time we've had Fireball and Scarlet crossed in that way was probably in a John Thaden Captain Scarlet novel from memory.
Okay.
Where Captain Black or a Mr. Agent sneaks aboard a Fireball craft, maybe XL19, I think. But exciting to see it visually here. Now, that kind of brings me on to the fact of just how many XL craft there are. So you seem to have had rather a field day with this.
Yes. It was, I have to say that as the, not only the artist, but the writer of this particular episode of Fireballs, this is exactly the sort of image that I wouldn't want to see in a script, with somebody just throwaway line of a fleet of fireballs attacking. No, that's easy to say in one sentence, and then it takes you a day to draw it.
Yeah.
But yes, it's that's good fun. This whole thing, I've taken specific bits from the some from the crossovers that actually happen in TV21, and then mixed in some of my own stuff. But that was the Captain Black appearance is also directly a springboard from one of the other. He appears. And that is subsequential. That sequence is subsequential to what the older viewers will have already read in TV21. So, yeah, I like this game of oblique.
We have to, because we want to, you know, it is very exciting, and I want people to feel excited, but I'd hate to give the game away. So now we've seen lots of XLs. We've seen Captain Black. But also, of course, it wouldn't be complete without some interaction with the boys from Tracy Island. So, yes, lots of whited out speech bubbles here. We can't possibly tell you what's going on. But hang on, is that International Rescue calling Space City there? How strange.
Yes. It's interesting, isn't it? I always loved the fact that in Thunderbirds, they always had the person that they were calling in first in the speech. So you would have Thunderbird 5 from Thunderbird 1. I always, as a child, that was slightly confusing to me, but I really liked it. But I could figure it out, but I had to spend about a minute figuring it out each time. So there are lots and lots of things in this script. I tried not to be too cliched with it. But there are lots and lots of things there which are kind of a kiss to the past, and a lot of those things that I really enjoyed moments that I really enjoyed in the series and phrases. And I tried to play around with it without being too crass with it. But there are lots of Easter eggs in there as well, which people can look at.
There are. I mean, clearly written and drawn by someone with a lot of love for all sorts of Anderson stuff, but particularly these 4 shows, I would say.
Yeah.
And then there are very memorable moments from some of said shows, particularly in the opening title sequences, where people will always remember those visuals. In Stingray, obviously, the one thing that people always remember is the terrorfish doing its dive with Stingray. So you have some little play with that, but brought in an unexpected additional vehicle.
Oh yeah, look. Well, it's interesting because I realised that. In fact, I didn't realise until I'd drawn it that I'd actually reversed what's on the TV screen.
Yeah.
Instead of Stingray being pursued by the terrorfish, this is the other way around. And of course, with you will see there that the terrorfish is caught mid-air by a Sting missile.
Yes.
I made an executive decision to think it can do that in mid-air.
Of course it can.
They're constantly updating their armaments.
Well, it's really lovely to see Stingray getting its own back. And also the details like in the terrorfish's eye there, an aquamphibian present and correct. It's really lovely stuff. And so this is a sequence for this particular moment where Fireball is not directly involved. Obviously, it has to tie in somehow. And this leads me on to something. We've had a few questions in. I'll get to some of them about signed editions and various other things people have been asking very shortly. But in the press release, it said something along the lines of, it's the first time ever that all 4 of these shows have been crossed over. And a few people saying, oh, I think actually they have, there's been a Thunderbirds mention in Fireball and there's been a Stingray in Fireball. But I think the key thing here is that you've really gone above and beyond to bring them all together in one thread, in one story. So, I mean, do you want to expound on that a tiny bit while tiptoeing around the actual plot itself?
How can I do this? Yes, that one of the main aspects of it was to try and get. The thing about TV21 is they sort of hinted, and they did have tiny crossovers, but they were not all happening in the same story. And they're all happening in the same story, so they're all linked. They link backwards to the stories that are in TV21, and some flow straight on from it. Some bits of it are maybe set after TV21 as well, which I'm terrible. I love doing this. A tease. But one of the interesting things I found when I was writing it, I mentioned last time, was it's the point of view. This is a Fireball story. It's not a Thunderbird story. It's not a Stingray story. Those guys come in and they make a welcome appearance. They also all are germane to the plot. They're not just thrown in, although given 17 pages, some of them don't hang around very long, but they all make a significant contribution to the story and push it along. And I was really amazed that the plot came to me quite quickly about how I could do this, and the thrill of it was suddenly thinking, oh, that's a way of doing it. That's a way of getting them together. But they won't necessarily all the time be absolutely on each other's side. There is some antagonism along the way in some areas. So it's quite interesting. And those things suggest themselves as you're doing the writing, because you've got Commander Zero, and you've also got Sam Shaw, and you've got Colonel White, and they are all a little bit. Actually, I don't think I managed to get Sam Shaw in it, thinking about it now. But he's mentioned, he's kind of inferred to be there. but they are not necessarily all pulling in the same direction, and that's quite interesting. And it's like, as I mentioned before, when you get the three Doctors together, the interesting thing about it is that they don't actually get on. They're actually at odds with each other because they're different characters and they've got their own agenda, you know.
Yeah, and they're all a bit precious about their bit of the TV21 universe, right? So if when they cross over, there's bound to be some friction.
Yeah, and there's a really big bit of friction between two of the characters in terms of which leads to some fairly catastrophic consequences.
Oh, you tease! You tease! Okay, well, look, don't tease too much more because we don't want to spoil things. But the book is presented with a lovely foreword from Lee, an introduction to XL5 in TV21 from Shaki LeVaycont, our resident comics expert, who's helped curate this and bring it all together. And then your news strips are presented in line, in kind of chronological flow with the existing extant TV21 stories to which they connect. Is that a fair way to describe it?
Mostly, yes. Although, of course, there's at one point there are a couple of leap forwards into the future. There are also some. We've arranged it so that one of the stories is a flashback, but it's a lot of people's favourite story. So I was very pleased to do that as well. It was originally we started off. I think, is this right? I may be making this up, but I think that originally this was going to be not a complete anthology of TV21, and so it was going to be maybe 4 or 5 stories, and so I could happily link them together. But I couldn't quite work out how to stick this story linked to this story because it's so well known. But I decided I'd do the thing that maybe Thunderbirds do every now and again, and all the series when they run out of time, I'll do a flashback now. Play the episode.
it all works really nicely, and so it'll expand on what you know. It brings in the shows that you kind of maybe wish had crossed over back at the time, or in a way that would have been as exciting and as high stakes as we've done here. I think you've done a tremendous job. I know a lot of people are very excited, and it is a lovely looking thing. So the question, or the questions that have been asked a lot recently are: number one, can it be signed? Number two, when and how? So we can answer those things now. So this book will go up for pre-order on the 18th of October. So just a few days from now, 6:30 p.m. on the Jerry Anderson store. That's shop.jerryanderson.com. So you can pre-order it there, and it will be delivered for you, hopefully in time for the 60th anniversary on the 28th. So they are in stock, hence Lee and I having our copies. So there is no long wait here. We just want to be able to get them to you as quickly as we possibly can. So we'll try and start shipping from probably the 24th or the 25th of October. So if you're in the UK, certainly you'll have it in time for the 60th, and we'll do our best to get it to you if you're further afield. So in answer to the signing question, well, there have been so many of you asking for signed editions. What we've decided to do is to produce a limited edition numbered signed version of the book, which you can order to make sure you get one of those. So Lee and I are going to go to the warehouse. It's a very exciting, glamorous day for us. And we're going to get 250 copies of the book. We're going to sign and number them. So you'll know which of the 250 you have. And Lee has also very kindly allowed us to reproduce a rather lovely Fireball Junior print, which will also be signed and numbered. Don't worry, I won't be scrawling on the Fireball Junior one. That will just be Lee, because I don't want to deface 2 beautiful items. So the numbering on both of those will match. So if you get, number 4 of 250 of the anthology, you'll get number 4 of 250 of Fireball Junior as well. So those are the 2 different versions. Bearing in mind how big these are, we've tried to keep pricing in line with the UFO anthologies that you've seen before. So at 336 pages, the standard is $39.99. And the special, if you want to be assured of a signed copy with the print, is $49.99. But there are only 250 of those, and we're pretty sure they will sell out sharpish, as these things tend to do. We hope we've done enough. We're trying to find the happy middle ground where enough people get the signed one they want. So yes, hopefully you'll be able to grab that. So from shop.jerryanson.com, 6:30 p.m. on the 18th of October, he says, looking at his notes, not very subtly. So Lee and I will take some pictures of us doing the signing, I suspect, and maybe make a silly video or something like that. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? And then I'm rewarding Lee afterwards with a lovely curry in return for him signing all these things. So there you go. If you've got any other questions in the meantime, do email our lovely support team. Louise, Tim and Michael will be very happy to answer your questions at support@jerryanderson.com. And that's it, I think, isn't it? I mean, we're very excited about the 60th. It's going to be a rather lovely celebration with that mini album, with the anthology. We're doing a little free story of some sorts, which we'll put out on YouTube. And I believe either today or in the next few days, you're going to get a very special announcement from one of our good friends about something you can watch and enjoy for the 60th too. So hopefully we're giving Fireball XL5 the nods and celebration that it deserves. And I think, Lee, certainly you have done with your marvelous strip. The title of said strip, is it Interplanetary Rescue? Is that the...
Yeah. One of the stories, yeah.
Yeah.
Part 1 and 2.
Yes, it is. It is a lovely title and feels very appropriate. So there we go. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you're excited to celebrate Fireball's 60th. We certainly are. Yeah, grab your book, 6:30 p.m. on the 18th from shop.jerryanderson.com, special or standard. And look at that lovely Fireball Junior print. Oh, I want one of those on the wall. Maybe Lee will give me one if I ask him very nicely. Thanks so much. Right, happy anniversary, Fireball. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Lee, for your great work. And
my pleasure.
Hopefully see you all on another stream, maybe even on the 28th of October itself. Goodbye.